Hello, lovely podcast people. This is potentially, you'll probably laugh when I say this, but will be the shortest podcast I've ever done. And it's one of those things that I ummed and ahed. I found it hard motivating myself to record it because I just don't fully know what I'm going to say. And it could end up being long, who knows, but I don't think so. It's come through multiple discussions I've had recently in self-realization and stuff like that. And it's even in part, in a way, I suppose, a compliment to the podcast. But I suppose, in a way, it's a word of encouragement for people who are trying to help family members, a word of encouragement for people working with clients who they feel like that there's some barriers to them helping them fully. Yeah, so... And annoyingly, because I've sat on this for a while, I did make a note here, it came from body image discussion. And I don't know exactly what that body image... Oh, yes, I do. Maybe. Yeah, so it came from a discussion around body image. And I guess it came from... The main topic is people need to help themselves. If someone has an addiction problem, it's fairly well accepted that to get help, they need to accept there's a problem before they can be helped, whatever that problem, addiction may be. And so sometimes in this in the world of self-help, people can really change their own lives through just a little bit of guidance, which is where I feel like the podcast can come in. I've spoken about motivational interviewing before, and really you're working there with someone who maybe has a level of apathy that, they don't have the motivation to change. They don't see enough reason to change. They don't want to put the effort into change. And often as parents, friends, partners, sons and daughters, we try and change that person in our life. And what it does is it causes them to defend their status quo. We go, Mum, Dad, why don't you do this? Or you want your partner to change a certain thing. And all it does is causes a butting of heads. Rather, in motivational interviewing is this thing of like getting them to come up with the reasons. It's the old adage of like make someone feel like it was their idea, I guess. Now, in the body image discussion, how can you improve someone's body image? And I've had this with clients and like in several relationships of people having body image issues. And, in some of these situations, them knowing themselves, I guess the theory, the academic answer, with their own clients, they would tell their client, don't be attached to the numbers on the scales. Don't be attached to body image. Would you speak to yourself like that? Talk to yourself like you talk to a friend, blah, blah, blah. But then again, don't necessarily apply it to themselves. And it's just really, really difficult. And if you're the partner in that situation or the friend in that situation or whatever, it's difficult. And, if it's a client that you're working with, you might be getting great results in one area, but you're struggling with something like that. I've mentioned body image there, but, there's lots of other things that might need addressing, whatever that may be. I think I've spoken elsewhere about, what was this? I think it was about practitioner responsibility or something. Was this another podcast I recorded? I meant to, but as in you're helping someone with their eating and maybe their exercise. I'm sure I did. You might be a PT and like, should I be talking to them about their nutrition? Well, it's and that's a discussion between the two people. But then there's a discussion of, I think their alcohol intake is particularly unhealthy. And really, then it comes down, am I being negligent if I don't broach the subject of I understand that maybe they have a problem with alcohol? And actually, you're not necessarily there to, definitely having open discussions, knowing your boundaries, being inquisitive is something that I think Ursula Philpott talks about in her MNU eating disorder lectures. As a nutritionist, or dietitian or coach, whatever, even if we're not qualified to work with eating disorders, we are there on the ground to, one, obviously not make people worse and not give them, food issues, but also there as someone who might be able to pick up on something and help with referral and nudge someone towards services that might help them. And often that comes through being interested, being inquisitive, asking questions, helping someone to see something maybe without being judgmental. So always having this non-judgmental approach, unconditional, positive regard no matter what someone says, which can be difficult if someone's self-sabotaging and you're like, oh, for goodness sakes, not doing that. So I think that the main point of this podcast was really, like I said, I didn't fully know, but to just encourage you, if you're one of these people, to maintain like this open door, and I think it also came from this idea of like, I know sometimes I can be, like I was talking to a friend the other day and I wasn't in practitioner mode and she was doing something really stupid with her nutrition that I knew wasn't good for her. And I tackled it very gently to begin with because I knew it would be a pain point and I did want the best for her. And, was met with immediate, no, I know best. And, at that point was like, well, and then I just wasn't the best version of myself. It's not my job, and also I'm just human, and it was maybe it was just a bit annoyed, but I just said, okay, it's absolutely fine. Like you will fail, and when you do, hopefully you'll remember this. And it was said with love, but I tried, sort of thing, which was not, it sounds like an okay response, but it just wasn't the best possible response I could have given. But there are these instances of just sometimes you just need to, I don't think she listens to my podcast actually, but it'd be funny if she did. Maybe she'll. And, the other thing is also she may, this is the problem, is she may get success in the short term, but it's this cyclical thing that I've obviously, as a friend from a distance, observed, and she's told me stories about, and I just don't want her going, see, I got better. And then it's like, yeah, but then 12 months down the line, you're back in this same situation that you've told me about before. But yeah, so maintaining an open door for clients, for family, for, whoever the person is. Because sometimes this stuff takes a lot of work, like months, if not years of work. Like body image issues don't change quickly. Like we had Dr. Nadia Craddock talking on body image at Malnutrition Live, and I've often sat and just mulled over the stuff that she said, and that stuff takes work. Like I think there was even a question from the audience about positive affirmations, and there is research, there is information about negative self-talk. And the problem is there isn't like really good, robust evidence towards positive affirmations. So, a bit like you see, you're beautiful, you're like saying positive things to yourself in the mirror. But the same way we can see like the negative stuff, like just getting up and saying good stuff about yourself all the time. It's as part of a bigger picture. This is where like people would often say to me, like, oh, you're too evidence-based. Like I'm not, you're making a judgment about me that is 100% not true. Like I'm all about doing things holistically, but I'm also like, if we've got evidence of what works, let's do that first. Let's go for the things that have the most robust evidence and also have the biggest magnitude of effect, and make sure we're doing those things consistently. And then let's add in some other stuff that might help. I literally said similar things to this in the re-recorded supplements lecture on MNU recently. Like, don't be putting in the junk, the fringe supplements that may or may not work before you've at least got good consistency with with other stuff. I'm not even someone who goes, oh, you need to, I've seen so many sports nutritionists over the years go, if you're eating pizza all the time, there's no point in supplementing with creatine. Absolute rubbish. Like the studies that on creatine that show a significant, statistically significant and real world significant impact, ergogenic effect of these supplements don't go to the subjects. By the way, you need to eat a good diet alongside this. Rubbish. Like I've had performance directors in sports, like medical teams, multidisciplinary teams going, why are we giving these athletes supplements when they can't even be bothered to get their diets right? Because let's do these are elite athletes that we're trying to get to the flipping Olympics, you moron. That's why. Give them some flipping creatine. Let's get some buy-in. When I worked in professional football, let's get some flipping buy-in from these millionaire teenagers who don't listen to anyone by saying to them, I'm not going to tell you don't drink any alcohol, but let's make better choices. And here's some cool, fancy supplements that probably will help. But anyway, sorry, massive rant there, off topic. So in terms of, the holistic stuff, it's like, great. If we're doing all the stuff that is out there, let's then add in some positive affirmations. Let's, stand in front of the mirror and say good things about ourselves. Why not? But some of the other stuff in terms of going through your social media, what things are triggering you, what things are triggering comparison, and, cleaning, what people are making you feel bad about yourself. Maybe doing this kind of spring clean of your following of people who are setting unrealistic standards or expectations, at least for a time where you can heal and change and, all this stuff. But lots of it, like there's no calorie deficit principle of body image. Like you have to do so much inner work and be really consistent with it. It is tough. This has become all about body image. It wasn't supposed to be that. It was... it's with like the other thing here is like binge eating, like not binge eating disorder, but just colloquially used term binge eating, not overeating, binge eating, and emotional eating. Like again, these things that we as even, I was going to say friends and family. It's risky to say that because I know just some people are just too dumb to help anyone. I mean, that's harsh of me to say, isn't it? But just some people, they just don't have the emotional intelligence to do it, do they? Let's be honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff. It's just not me. Some people are just not cut out. They're just not wise. I've said it. I don't care. So, but yeah, what was I saying? But self-help, like binge eating, there are I think Overcoming Binge Eating, the self-help book by is it Fairbairn, is it Christopher Fairbairn? Either way, you Google that, it comes up straight away. But people can do that themselves. So then you get a nutritionist, and a coach, whatever, to kind of support through that can be helpful. Just being able to bounce ideas, dig into things, allocating time to a thing, it is part of just, therapy, all different therapies, talking therapy, CBT, anything. Some of it's just simply giving space in your life, time in your day to just write stuff down and ponder it and work through and feel feelings and work logically through, why am I thinking that? And actually that's not a logical way to think, and this isn't actually the end of the world, and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, this is not going to be my shortest podcast ever, but I do think this is short and I've pretty much finished. So I think just a lot of it, what I wanted to talk about was just encouragement and if you've got that situation with someone, just to keep an open door. These things don't happen overnight. Don't try and force it sometimes. And why I feel like the podcast, I'm so proud of what the podcast has already achieved in the 1 year it's been going, in that I have so many messages from people just going, and it blows my mind. I've said this to friends and my staff, and like people messaging me and going, you've changed my relationship with food. And I'm like, how? Please tell me how. What did I say? What on earth could I have possibly said to undo, all of these issues you had, and really the praise and should go to that individual. Like, they have stepped up, they've heard, they've listened, they've been open to that. I've met, something I've said has resonated with them at the right time. And lots of people have all the stuff I talked about, unconditional permission to eat, and the lack of demonization of foods, that hopefully just rings through all of my podcasts. Food, this kind of sort of food freedom, and this is why the whole anti-diet and non-diet culture. Lots of people don't realize that actually you can apply a lot of that, but still intentionally lose weight, and people end up in a very different place psychologically to what they maybe believe. Like, all diets give you eating disorders, which is this mad non-scientist view that goes around these anti-diet gimps. Cool. This was nice. This was pleasant. Sending you all lots of love, and I hope you've enjoyed this. And until next time, much love.